as an artist, you are an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You have to learn how to navigate the business world as an entrepreneur, and you learn the way you like to do business and like what these contracts say and how much you're worth, and like I said, you're not going to be worth what you're really worth out the gate. You have to train people on how much you're worth.
Welcome to the Atlanta Music Project Fireside Chats. This is the podcast, and we're going to call these podcasts The Next Movement. It's my pleasure to welcome famed Atlanta artist, the one and only Fabian Williams. Welcome, Fabian.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So first, I'm hanging out here at the Atlanta Music Project Center for Performance and Education on stage. Of course, we can't gather for concerts, but this is where I am. Where are you?
I'm in my studio at Fort McPherson, Studio Nunu.
And how you doing? Like, how are you managing to continue to be an artist during this COVID-19 pandemic?
I mean, to be honest, my schedule and my routine hasn't really changed a whole lot. What has changed is my level of stress. I'm worrying about everything from, getting paid on time, which actually never happens. So that's kind of normal. And, but like one thing I've learned from being an independent contractor, because before I was a full-time artist, I was a contractor for ad agencies doing web development and graphic design and editing, really just like pretty much any level of creative production. And when the 2008 crash happened, it took a while for it to reach me. It took about 2 years. But when the second year hit, like that's when, it went from me getting paid immediately to 30 days to 60 days to, we'll get it to you when we get it. So right. I recognize the importance of small business loans. A lot of small businesses have credit lines that allow them to pay their employees. And when the banks don't lend them money, then that's when contractors like myself get the short end of the stick. And so this is bringing all of that back. We're really just beginning in is what is a recession, possibly a Great Depression or depression. Let's say Great Depression. So I'm like really looking at what's happening and what is being done government wise. And that's bringing me a lot of stress because obviously government is in, shambles right now.
And have you been able to tap in, or have you the government loans, the PPP loans that are supposed to not only support businesses, but also they're supposed to be supporting independent contractors. Has that been something you've been able to navigate?
I've received nothing. I've received a stimulus check for $1,000, which doesn't cover, my mortgage or, my bills. It didn't cover my bills. So I'm still working. I still have projects lined up. So far, they haven't been canceled. There's been a couple of companies that have reached out and offered their help, but, their response has been slow, too. So I'm like, I'm still going about my regular business and doing my thing, but like, I am looking for the hook. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm not super optimistic about the next year, really, because of the incompetence that we're dealing with.
Yeah, it's the same thing for the Atlanta Music Project. Like, in a way, we are doing okay now because we had our finances and our revenue sort of set up for this current school year, but definitely the next 12 to 24 months is going to be the challenge, when governments have less money, when philanthropists don't have as much money to give away. So yeah, I feel you, man. That's going to be a very challenging, there's a very challenging future. But I would argue that in this pandemic, art is even more important, is it not?
Very important. It's really one of the most important things because honestly, times like this, it reminds us of what are we living for? Why are we going to our jobs? We do these things at our jobs to pay for our families, and then we look to art to make the lives we live more rich and fulfilling. So, my focus creatively right now has been, I have my unfinished projects that I'm working on. One of them is at Morehouse, which is like the biggest mural I've done to this date. But my sketchbook is how I jot my ideas. Okay. And I've been cataloging some of my thoughts in my sketchbook, and those ideas are what turn into murals and bigger pieces. So when I did the Kaepernick mural, what a lot of people didn't see is that I did a sketch of the mural before I did it on the building about 2 months prior.
You just did it lightly so people wouldn't notice it so much. A little light, like a little trace.
Well, I mean, like to get the idea out of my head, right. I was like, I drew him in an Atlanta Falcons uniform.
Oh yeah,
and
okay.
I told my friends, I was like, I'm gonna paint this as a mural, and they was like, yeah, you should, cool. And then I finally did it, and that was actually when I started doing, illegal murals.
And we'll get into that. We're going to talk about the Kaepernick and the Kaeperbowl, which launched you around the world. I want to ask you about something that I heard you talk about at your Creative Mornings Atlanta talk. You said during your talk that if you guys, the audience, remember one thing from my talk, I want you to remember that art controls culture and culture controls people. I'd love to unpack that with you a bit. What do you mean by that?
That means that creative people are the ones that steer all of the sort of silent questions that a society asks, like what should I do? What should I buy? What's cool? What's not? What's moral? What's immoral? Artists are the ones that dictate that. That's why advertising and marketing are so important. It's why when you go to churches, you have giant murals and paintings of the saints and, images that are depicted in the Bible. Back in Renaissance times, which is like my favorite period, most people were illiterate. So they relied on the paintings to tell the story of what happened in the Bible because most people couldn't read it. So the artists are the ones that shape culture. Music tells people what their value system is. Like when you listen to hip hop, you're learning what the value of the people in the music that they talk about, what they're worth. So that's why, I've never subscribed to the idea that musicians aren't cultural leaders. Like, you absolutely are. Everything you say is being recorded by the people that are taking in your music, either consciously or subconsciously. So that's power that you're using, whether you are conscious of it or not. So, if you want people to do a certain thing, you put it in the art, you put it in the music, you put it in the paintings, you put it in the dance, it informs everything. That's why I feel like art is so underplayed, and also taken out of schools because, those are the people that really control the minds of everybody.
It's funny. I can't count the number of times in my life where I've heard around the world or seen a sort of mannerism or a saying that I know definitely originated in an American inner city through hip hop.
How many kids you seen walking down the street doing this?
You know,
Music videos.
wearing your hat backwards. You
Yeah.
know, all these little sayings that have become commonplace. You see them on news
Yep.
stations and radios. It's amazing. Let's go back for a moment about your life. So you grew up in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Yep.
Yeah, you told me that your entire family is military. Your father, your stepfather, your brother, and you told me that in your household, the bathroom was referred to as the latrine.
The
You said
train.
that
Yep.
y'all didn't have cars, y'all had vehicles.
Watch the vehicle.
How
Yep.
did you end up becoming an artist, and what was it like growing up in a military family?
Well, I was always an artist, and whether I wanted to be or not, that's what I did. Like, uh, my punishment used to be, you can't draw, go outside and play. That was when my parents used to discipline me. So it was definitely who I was. And I will say that, like, the military structure is what gave me my sort of ability to complete things. Like, I know how to schedule myself. I know how to regiment my production so I get things done. That's what you had to do in my house growing up. Like, I never slept in on Saturdays. To this day, I feel guilty waking up, past 9 o'clock. We were up
Right.
at 7:30 to do the yard work, and we were usually done around 9:30. That's when Ghostbusters came on. The real Ghostbusters. I don't know if
Of
you remember
course.
that.
Do you remember the first time that you drew? Like, how did you find out that you were good at drawing? The way I see it from my perspective, when I was in grade school, elementary school, there were kids that were good at drawing. They could just do it like it was a gift, and me, not so much. With music, that came much more easy to me. So, do you remember ever not being able to draw well, and how did you like first really
Yeah,
get going?
like, I couldn't draw when I first started out. As a matter of fact, what really got me focused on it was, um, it was a competition that was initiated between my stepfather with me and my brother.
Okay.
And it was a picture of me and him together. And I guess we were bored, and he was like, all right, we got a contest. Who can draw this better? And even though my brother had a 2-year advantage on me as a human,
How old are you guys at this point?
I was 4 and he was 6.
Okay.
So, we drew the picture. I lost, and I was pretty furious because I'm real competitive.
Right.
So I just kept drawing. I was like, he's not going to beat me again. And I just kept drawing and drawing and drawing, and it just became obsessive. So I learned that if I put my effort into it, I get results. And I mean, I used to play the cello too.
Wow.
And I actually got
How about
first
that?
chair when I was 12, but I dropped that for basketball, actually.
But you
You
kept
know,
up the visual art, so that's good.
I kept the visual. I mean, I still use music. Music is a very important part of my process. Like, whenever I start a mural, I create a playlist, and that
Oh,
playlist
interesting.
sets the tone for, like, I've learned that if I feel a certain way, then the work will radiate that feeling. So, which is a, a number of things I've learned. Like, when I do work about depressing subject matter, I don't play depressive, like angry music. I play music that makes me feel how I want to feel after I figure out the result of what I don't like. If that makes sense.
Oh, wow, that's something. So
So
now I feel like I have to ask you what kind of music you were listening to when you were doing the Kaepernick murals. But I have a. We'll come back to that because that's just such a
okay,
big deal, and I definitely want to hit that up later in this conversation. So you got good at drawing by practicing it and doing it. Are you exposing your own kids to the arts? Did they like it, and would you support them if they wanted to become professional artists?
well, yes, I absolutely would. Will all my kids are artists, for one.
Okay.
But I believe that everybody's an artist. It's just, what is your medium? Some people, business is a medium. Some people play instruments. Some people play sports. Like, like basketball, when you're playing against an opponent, it's physical jazz. You're making up moves as you go along with the tempo of the team. The team is your band. So like a play is a song. You know what I mean?
Especially the good players. The good players are so good that they turn what they're doing. It's really creative stuff.
It's
You
absolutely
look
creative.
at, Michael Jordan, everyone's watching The Last Dance, and
Yeah.
some of the moves that he made, I mean, that's art.
Reverse layup. When I saw the reverse layup, I was like, why didn't I think of that? Turn your back. And I've never even done the reverse layup by slapping my wrist. I always do it like, something like that. But he snapped it, and that was creative. You know what I mean? Like that move he did in the air when he saw, okay, these defenders are jumping up. I got to turn my back. I still got to score, so I'm gonna take the ball and flip it off my wrist,
right,
and have it bounce off the backboard. I mean, like that's
unplanned, spontaneous,
right? Man.
And I think that also speaks to the amount of his skill level was so high that he was able to improvise and take whatever he needed, to do to score, to get to the bucket. He could do it because he had complete mastery of his craft.
Right. Improvisation is like a tool for any artist that is in the depths of their trade. There are things that I learned how to do just from doing it so long that things just appear to me in a moment, and I use it, and it changes my whole way of doing things. So there's like levels of art inside of art.
Let's talk about your somewhat short-lived career in advertising. So you studied advertising in college, correct?
Yes.
Illustration. And then you took your talents eventually to Los Angeles to work for some of the biggest companies in the world, the biggest brand names in the world. And you developed an ability there to influence consumers and their decisions through advertising. What did you learn about how to really capture someone's attention through good advertising? And I know you use some of that stuff in your murals because your murals are easily captivating.
Yeah, I learned how to capture someone's attention within seconds. So back when I moved into advertising, it was during the .com boom. And that was when a lot of regular people were getting millions of dollars to create ideas for websites, because websites was this new phenomenon. So I was doing web design and also banners. Banners was considered like a lowly task for a good designer, but web banners is what accounted for most of the business of a lot of these advertising agencies, because every time someone clicked on it, then that was money that had to be paid towards whoever's website it was on. Mm-hmm. So that's how a lot of website companies make money. So as a freelancer, banner work was easy to get, it's easy to complete, and the money that you were paid was really good. So I would do banners, a lot of banners, on top of websites and video and things like that. But banners was like an easy thing for me. So I would design banner ads that would get people's attentions with a whole bunch of other banners on the website. So you had to be creative in terms of what you could do to get somebody to like click on this 300 by 250 or 728 by 90 or 160 by 600 shape ad. And you had a lot of competition. So I learned how to compete with other people's ads to get the attention. And I use the use of color, motion, or appearance of motion to grab attention. That's the same techniques I use when I do murals. I use color, I use reflective paints, I use figurative elements. I know sometimes that certain images will trigger your subconscious, and you'll look at it and it like your brain is scanning everything, constantly scanning. So you just learn like certain things will grab people's attention and imagination,
What?
and it's transferable to murals.
But you're doing this work in LA, and
Mm-hmm.
you're making really good money. You're really good at what you do, but at
Yep.
the same time, you're fighting people on Facebook, in Facebook comment and threads. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So that actually didn't start in LA. That was started when I worked in Atlanta. So I moved back to
Okay.
Atlanta, and I was still doing advertising.
Okay.
And my last place I was working with JWT, which has been around for like over 100 years. And I was working on everything that I stood against.
Right.
I don't believe that we should still be on oil. I feel like we should be using other alternative fuels. I'm doing ads for Jiffy Lube and Pennzoil.
Right.
I'm doing voiceovers for the Marines, which at the time we were involved in the longest running conflict. I was arguing with people about unending wars, yet I'm doing the ad work for them.
Right.
I mean, everything. It was just like pretty much everything that I philosophically was like, we should change this. I was doing work for them. So I was just like, I'm full of shit. I'm like, I'm a phony. I was contradicting myself. And it started to really mess with me, outside of the job, where I was not enjoying the fruits of my labor. I had a nice car, nice clothes, but I felt hollow.
Was there a tipping point? Was there an event that kind of made you, okay, now I'm gonna
Yes.
change? What was that?
After my contract ended, I was like, well, let me go and like find another contract. So the laptop that I used to do my work on, like my hands wouldn't let me touch it. Like I had a revolt. My hands revolted against me. It was very, I didn't even know your body could do that. Like, and I thought I was like, maybe I was having like a mental breakdown or something, but my hands would not, like I was literally like this.
It was like an out of body experience.
It was very interesting. So that made me, I left it alone one day and I tried to come back the next day and do it, and it still wouldn't let me touch the keyboard. And then that computer stopped working. So I didn't have a computer. I didn't really have the money to buy things because I was just blowing through the money that I was making. I was making well over 100,000. And
yeah, I remember you said what you were making in one of your speeches, but I didn't want to say it. But yeah, you're making good money.
Yeah, I was making like 130, and
a lot of money for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Most people.
But did I save? No, because I've been doing that for years.
Right. You think it's never going to stop. So.
Yeah. So I was like, I just find another one. Cause like, when I did have a fairly decent reputation for just being like, being able to knock out stuff real fast. Mm-hmm. So, but my hands they just wouldn't work.
So what'd you do then?
I just was like, well, it just occurred to me, I'd never tried to be an artist. And I really had reached the point where I was like, I just don't want to do this type of work anymore, and so I tried being an artist. So I didn't know how to do it. I started with doing like a series of drawings because I was like, I need to get to create work where people will recognize my thought process, and I need to train my audience. So I started doing these daily sketches. So I would wake up in the morning, have some coffee, and then I would do a drawing about the latest thing that got on my nerves. And the other catch was I couldn't comment on other people's stuff. If I had a problem with something, I had to turn it into a drawing. And that handicap allowed me to learn how to speak through my visual language. And once I had my visual language, I also trained my audience to understand what I'm saying. So when I put a light bulb or a gear, people knew what I was talking about. And I took those drawings and then I just transferred those over to murals. And go ahead.
No, well, I was going to ask, do you remember your first big break as an artist?
Yeah, several. The first mural that I did was for Ford Warrior, and that was like, I mean, I wasn't paid for that. I mean, I wasn't paid for a lot of murals in the beginning. But the one I did for Ford Warrior was my first sort of like political mural. It was called the Politicalizer, ironically. It was about how the Republicans and Democrats basically are like one side of the same machine, and how they use their conflict to draw money out of you.
And where was this mural?
This was in Cabbagetown.
Cabbagetown. So
yeah, it was painted over. That one, and then I did Wake Up, MLK Wake Up. That was the one where Martin Luther King Jr. is floating in space, above the earth.
And that was in the Old Fourth Ward?
Yes. That was actually, that's on Wiley too.
I remember that one.
Yeah, so that one got, that one went pretty, like around the country in terms of like the interest in it. New York Times came down and shot it, and the LA Times, AJC, and that one was shocked. That was, I mean, I was shocked because I was just like, I didn't expect that much response of a response.
That was my next question. Like, did you, when this happened, were you like, yeah, that's all right, it's about time, or you were more like surprised?
No. I'm still like, every time I get, I'm still surprised. I like some of it, yeah, like, okay, it makes sense if it's a celebrity or something like that, but I didn't think the Kaepernick one would do what it did. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, let's talk about that. Yeah, this is crazy to me. It's a crazy story, a great story. So in the run up to the 2018 Super Bowl, which was in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
You were the artist responsible for #Kaeperbowl. So your murals of Colin Kaepernick made international news. I watched a video about you that was produced by BBC Sport.
Yeah, Reese.
I mean, this thing really, really went.
And that was before it was destroyed too.
Right. Well, let's talk about how this all started. You wanted Kaepernick to replace Matt Ryan, right?
Yes, because Matt Ryan is trash. I mean, he seemed like a nice enough guy, but
he had a chance to go all the way. He had a chance.
Man, he dropped the ball so many times. Literally, dropped the ball so many times. Yeah, man, I was just like, okay, the 49ers don't want him. I witnessed his team take out the Atlanta Falcons, back during the playoffs. So I was like, I hated him then, but I was like, what he stands for is righteous. What he's saying is true. And we need voices like that. Why don't you come down to Atlanta? This is the civil rights headquarters. And he could just, man, if he rode the bench and was just, there as a symbol, he lines up with the city, philosophically. At least I felt so. So I was like, it'd be dope if I painted him in a Falcons uniform, because, it just seemed right. So I did the drawing first, like I said, and I showed it to my friends, like, I'm going to paint this mural. And they was like, cool. So I went one day when, people were going about their business. I just brought my ladder and my speaker, and I set up like I was supposed to be there on this old building on Joseph Lowry, which had been vacant for ever since I've been in Atlanta, for at least 10 years. And it was used as a spot for movie posters. And all down the street are a bunch of abandoned houses, like for a mile, on Joseph Lowry. If you're going away from, if you're going towards north side, it's just nothing but abandoned buildings. So I was like, ain't nobody would care if I paint this.
Right.
And it'd been marked up and been, it's just, it was just an eyesore. And it was an 8-foot hole in the roof. Like, nobody cares about this building. So, and it's right across the street from Morehouse. Even though I never realized Morehouse was right there. The athletic center, the auditorium, not the auditorium, but the gymnasium.
The track, yeah, the food.
So I chose it because it was a white building, but it's also in the middle of the hood. So It took me like two days to do it, and I put it up, and then immediately when I put it up, people was like, "True," like, yeah, he would be dope. It would be dope if he was here, and his jersey is the same as Michael Vick. Now, I thought it was appropriate that he was here also because the number 7 is a divine number. It's the number of completion.
Right.
So I was like, I figured, God got me too. Because I mean, even though I'm not a Christian per se, I'm still spiritual and I still believe in some of the tenets of Christianity. So I don't know. It felt right. Long story short. So, and another thing I have to say, the thing that separates the advertising version of myself from the artist version is feeling. I feel my way through things now. Like,
okay.
And advertising was more so like a logical sort of like, what can I do to get these people to do X, Y, and Z? Now it's more so of, I think about that, but then I think about how do I want them to feel? What do I want them to feel here? This is for the logical part, but the colors and the construction of the piece is about the emotional resonance,
And the heart informs the mind.
Heart informs the mind. True. Yes. So like now that I work, it's a little bit of like strategic execution, and the other part is of like an emotional like feeling. Like I feel my way through stuff. I never paint exactly what I draw because the mural, the placement, the timing, the way the sun hits it, all informs what I should do to get people to react a certain way.
Speaking of the way the sun hits buildings, the original Colin Kaepernick mural got destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
The house got destroyed.
Right.
So tell us about that. And then you had this idea to then draw 7 Colin Kaepernick murals around the city in the days leading up to the Super Bowl. And there was one in particular on North Side that you sort of timed it so that we would first see it in the morning light, and there would be this halo effect around Colin Kaepernick's afro. I mean, this was spectacular. So can you take us through this first mural, or the house being destroyed, up to the Super Bowl craziness and how all that came about?
Yeah, the Super Bowl thing was, it was weird. Like starting out, like leading up to that day, that Friday, the BBC, like you were saying, they came into town to do an interview about Atlanta, the Atlanta art scene, both music and visual, and how activism plays into all of that. So they wanted to go around the city and look at the artwork that I had done and like sort of my thought process on, how the work came about. And ironically, we went to that mural like the week before it got demolished. So the day that the day before the BBC article came out, the video, because it was a video interview and a print for BBC Sports, and they weren't the only ones. There was like several different publications that covered it. Mm-hmm. At the same time, leading up to that, there was this mural project that was being done by Wonderroot, which they initially asked me to do 7 murals, and went from 7 to none to me applying against another artist to get one or two of the murals, and they ended up not picking me at all anyway. And come to find out that they were partnered with the NFL.
Wonderroot first offered you 7 murals, and then it became 0 for some reason.
Yes, and it just so happened that they're
they work with the NFL.
NFL. So right. Leading up to that, nobody would touch me. I didn't work for about 5 months. Well, about 4 months. No jobs.
Just from that one mural with Colin Kaepernick.
Well, the crazy thing is, like, I did the mural 2 years prior, right? So nothing, like I was getting jobs up until the NFL came to town. When the NFL came to town, nobody would touch me. And I was getting job offers from Hyundai, Rolling Stone. But if they were partnered with the NFL, once the NFL found out, that was it. So the only people that would hire me to work was Nike.
Because they were supporting.
They had already done a campaign with Colin Kaepernick. So it didn't hurt them politically. They pretty much was like, we're going to do what we want to do. So they hired me to do a mural, which actually the money from that helped take care of the 4 months that I didn't work. So I was kind of riding high, to be honest. Like I was feeling good. That weekend, my plan was to touch up the Colin Kaepernick and the Muhammad Ali, which was beside him, and just chill out. You know, I wasn't going to watch the game, but I was really just going to take it easy. And I had an interview for NPR that Friday morning. So I was on my way to a mural that I did down the street from that mural for this place called Marty's, which is a community kitchen. And when I get to the light, Fair Street on Fair Street and Joseph Lowry, that's where the building was. And what I saw was his legs and a bulldozer just smashing the bricks.
That's all that was left.
Yeah, I was like, huh? So when I saw that, I called my manager, Ash Nash, and she was like, what's going on? I told her, I was like, they're destroying the building. She's like, who's they? I was like, these guys are demolishing the building. And I mean, I kind of couldn't believe it. So I went down and did the interview with NPR. Then I came back and I pulled out my phone and I recorded the building being destroyed and I posted it. And that's when actually Ernie Suggs of the AJC is a friend of mine. And I told him and I sent him the video and that he did a story on it. And that's when it went around the world. And after that, my homeboy Fahamu Peku, who's an artist here.
Shout out to Fahamu. Dr. Fahamu Peku.
Called me and was like, yo, man, don't let that be the last thing they see about this mural. Like, do not let them, the last thing they see is the mural being destroyed. You got to follow it up with something. So I was like, I don't know what. So, I went and took a nap because I was emotionally drained. And my homegirl, my manager, Ash, was like, yo, I got an idea. And I was like, what? She was like, we're going to paint murals of Kaepernick all over the city. And I was like, that's a great idea, but I don't own any of those buildings. So we're going to have to get permission. Otherwise, that's immediately going to be taken to make him look like he's an instigator.
Yeah, you don't want to mess up what he was doing. Right.
Exactly. So I was like, I told her to get permission from all the building owners and then let's find artists to match up with those buildings and let's do it all on Sunday, during the Super Bowl. So it was like, cool. On Saturday night, I went and found some images that I liked. Then I took another nap and I got up around 1:30 and I went down to 400 Northside and I had a small crew with me. I had my homegirl, AD, who shot me. Kimmy, what's Kimmy's last name? She's an amazing artist. Kimmy Bennings, the poet. She also does Soul Sister Juke Joint. But anyway, she joined me and also another friend of mine. She didn't want me to name her name, but we got together. I had lights set up and I just painted until like 5:30. And it was a Kaepernick's face. And I did that to let the people know that we're going to the stadium because this is right down the street from the stadium.
That's right. Yeah, you can walk to the stadium from there.
Yeah, this ain't over.
On North Side.
Yeah, so I was like, I wanted all the players, I wanted all the people that were going to the Super Bowl to see like this ain't. You're not gonna hide from this. And then later on in the day, other murals started popping up with Kaepernick, and it just ended up being like a feeding frenzy for the press.
#Kaeperbowl.
Yeah, and then we named it Kaeperbowl, and it went around the world. Like literally, like after I posted it at 5:30, I woke up at like 9 and my phone was getting calls from all types of weird numbers. And I answered one, and it was like the Canadian Broadcasting Network, CBC.
CBC, yeah, that's. I grew up on CBC because I'm from Canada.
Oh, you're from
That's
Canada?
born and raised in Canada, and
Oh,
that's
nice.
essentially the BBC of Canada.
Word, yeah, yeah. First of all, like I get along with 95% of Canadians. Like y'all are generally like really cool people, chill people.
Yeah.
Some of my best friends are Canadian. Anyway,
Have you gone to Montreal? Have you painted in Montreal before?
I've never gone to Canada.
Okay? I recommend Montreal. I think it's in terms of like the art scene there. I think it would. I went to undergrad in Montreal. I went to McGill
Nice.
University, and so I think the art scene there would be. It's very well supported, at least from what I remember. But so you eventually this word of this campaign got to Colin Kaepernick himself, right?
Yes. So after Kaeperbowl, a few months after that, Know Your Rights Camp reached out to us, and they wanted to do a meet and greet in Baltimore, which was the site of their next camp. So me and Ash were flown up there, and we got to experience the Know Your Rights camp, and we got introduced to the Know Your Rights family, met Kaepernick, met a few other celebrities that were working with him, and I realized what type of person he was based on the work that he was doing.
You said that this camp was the closest thing to
Black Panther Party.
Black Panther Party that you've seen. What was it? What was it that they were teaching the kids there that stood out to you?
How to engage with police, how to relieve stress, using yoga, and just really like ways to deal. Because I mean, it's stressful being young and Black, especially when you're getting videos showing people like you being murdered and their murderers getting off free, and also like just the general like how the public reacts to you because of things that they see that doesn't necessarily reflect you in a positive light.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's something that it's a unique experience for Black children to see stuff like that and then just try and go and live in society that is is really misdirected into treating you like a pariah. So there's that. They talk about nutrition and really everything except guns. Huh?
Oh, everything except guns, right?
Yes, everything except guns. They are. It's just a positive camp for young Black children to get information that they need. To be honest.
How did you meet Killer Mike? Was it through that experience that you met the Atlanta rapper Killer Mike?
No, I met Killer Mike. I met Killer Mike several times. I just run into him, but I met him. First time I met him was at an event with Dr. Fahamu Peku, actually. It was like when he had the show called The 15 Project. Mike was the guest, and I was like the co-host. Then I met him again at some event for AT&T. And then I was brought into his to an event that he did in Miami for Art Basel. So
wow. So he supports you. Obviously, he supports your work.
Yeah. And I actually also worked on his show, Trigger Warning. I did a mural for his show and a painting.
Really? Now I've got to go back and watch the show.
Yeah. I mean, I did the mural of his homeboy Sleepy. And Jesus.
That was you? Yeah.
Yeah, I did that mural.
That has the slanted eyes and he's always looking like he's half asleep. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
that show is a trip. Now I'm gonna have to go back and watch that episode to see that mural.
Yeah.
Okay. So you took the, I guess we'll say your success from all this Kaeperbowl, all the Kaeperbowl murals, and you eventually parlayed that into something that you call Bloom Arts ATL.
Bloom Arts. Yeah,
and I know that you're very adamant. Like, I know it's important for people to know that you paid all the artists that worked with you on the Kaeperbowl murals.
Yes. Yeah, we raised over $10,000, and we paid all the artists $500 for helping us do the actual Kaeperbowl event, and then we took the rest of that money and we put it towards starting the Bloom Arts ATL nonprofit, and now we're looking to do projects that are similar to what I was doing before, because really I was doing Bloom work before Bloom was Bloom. It's just that I didn't have just the business sense to like go and do that, or the money, mind you. I didn't have the money to do it. So I just used that as an opportunity to pivot and start an actual organization, because I wanted to like apply that philosophy to a structure of responsible people, because I'm not always responsible. You know what I mean? I'm still an artist out here in the streets. So we cut corners sometimes, just to get the job done. And
Bloom Arts ATL, you're mixing murals and urban farming, among other things.
Yes. We're looking at the urban space differently now, especially with the rising need for food scarcity being an issue. You've heard the term food deserts.
Absolutely. I live in one.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
Oh, the West End.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're like looking at it as an opportunity for people to take their nutritional destiny in their own hands. So we're creating gardens around the murals as a way to have edible vegetation that complements the murals. And so people that live in the area can be able to go up and take that food, eat it, or turn it into a business. We don't really care. We just want people to have access to food, fresh food in their vicinity. And we also want artwork that stimulates people's, minds while they're doing it. So it's like, it's like a botanical garden museum of sorts for everybody.
If a certain community wants to work with Bloom Arts ATL, I know you're already in Lakewood Heights. What if a community has a space, and they want to get in touch with you guys and they want to work with you guys? How do you go about picking where you're going to work?
Really, we're trying to create case studies, like really a proof of concept.
Okay.
So we're working to get the model down. So once we have that, then we can like take that and then apply it to as many neighborhoods and locations as possible. Because what I do know is that it doesn't have to cost a ton of money to start a garden or to do a mural. My rates are expensive for more corporate bodies because they can afford it. Right. But when I go into neighborhoods, I usually don't charge the building owners. I try and get corporate sponsorship to pay for it. So the corporate sponsor can get like their shine. The people that live in the area can get, good artwork and food. So I do feel like right now, especially with the way the politics is set up, that we're kind of on our own. Mm-hmm. And if that's the way it's going to be, then it's like we're wasting all of this green space by having lawns and grass and bushes that you can't do nothing with.
Yeah, they don't grow anything that it can't grow.
Yeah, and it doesn't, like, the thing about like crops is that crops can be beautiful. They bloom too.
Right.
You just have to think about it aesthetically.
And there's the name, Bloom Arts ATL.
There you go. Yeah. So it's like we try to like get people to re-envision how food should look and how it plays a role in visual aesthetics. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'll be keeping a lookout for your work there. I know that I know the area where you're doing it in Lakewood Heights, so I'm definitely going to check that out. You're trying to raise some money, right? Is the money you're trying to raise for Bloom Arts ATL, or is it for another endeavor?
No, it's for Bloom Arts ATL. Like,
you're trying to raise $1 million.
Yes.
After you've got this proof of concept to spread this endeavor around the city.
Yeah. Well, we want that million to go into Lakewood Heights. Like, we plan on paying. Like, I want to pay the artist what I pay myself.
Right.
You know what I mean? And also the farmers that come and do the work. Like, I feel like it's almost like the WPA's project that happened in the 1920s during the Great Depression. Like we want to like employ working craftsmen and artists to beautify the city, because one, those projects heighten the value of the neighborhood, and also it lifts the spirit of the people that have to be that live there. We don't want those people to leave. We want the people that have less means to feel good about where they live, and also we want them to stay there. You know, I believe that you can come, like people will come from all over the world to see this, and then they can leave. You know, spend the money with the local economy, then go home.
Right.
And maybe do this where you come from. You know, because what they're gonna notice is how good it feels. It's gonna feel good. That work, the work plus the food just has a different vibe to it. And we're like, we want to improve just the vibe of the area, you know.
I wish you a lot of success. I know it's going to work out. Because
It will.
Your murals are so captivating, and they're always so socially conscious. And so and these neighborhoods that you're working in are on the verge of being gentrified, if not already. And so this is the kind of art that can help the local individuals that live in those neighborhoods to celebrate themselves. And that's sort of what we want to do, or what we are doing with the Atlanta Music Project. We work with 300 kids per year, and we are using music to make all-stars, local all-stars out of kids in their own neighborhoods. And so before we we have two students here that we're going to bring up on video. Alivia and Landon are still around. I'm going to bring up on video in a moment here so that they can ask you some questions. But I want to ask you one question, which is related to music and art. So the Atlanta Music Project, as I was saying, has a lot of talented young musicians that can easily audition and get accepted to college to study music. Alivia and Landon are two examples. However, not necessarily Alivia and Landon, but many of our students are coming from a situation where they may not be able to afford to take on a lot of student debt, and they can't afford to not have a job that can provide them with a steady income to survive and pay off their loans after they graduate. But they're really good musicians. What would you say to a student in that situation? Should they play it safe and get a more practical degree and maybe do the music on the side, or should they go for it, live out their passion, and be the best at it? What advice would you give to young people in that conundrum?
I can tell you that you definitely should go ahead and do it now. Go for your passion while you're young, because once you become old, like let's say you're a good artist, but you don't believe that you can make a living as an artist, and I'm gonna just go ahead and tell you you're wrong. It's just that you're not gonna come out the gate making $1 million gazillion, because you know you have to earn that income. You have to earn your value. Now you may be like amazing, and you may be $1 million or a 6-figure artist out the gate, but nobody else knows that. So you have to build that rep. And I can tell you that if you say you put your music or your art on the back burner, and you decide to go ahead and get that job that pays well, but isn't what you want to do, when you do decide to get the courage, or you decide to like move on and actually concentrate on your art, you're going to have other responsibilities, potentially, like, you know, a mortgage or children.
Family. Yep.
And those can make you feel like an anchor that you can't necessarily shake off if you want to move in another direction. So it's like, just go ahead and bite the bullet and just shoot for your dreams, and you'll be surprised at where you end up. You know, there was a few times when I was younger where I had the opportunity to really be in the movie industry as an illustrator. And I was in college, and I was like, well, I can't quit college. And even though I had a job with MGM Studios, but that was just fear. So I never even officially finished my degree in illustration. So, but I went right out of college working. So it really is going to come down to your portfolio, your body of work. You know, are you making good music? Are you making quality work? The quality of your work will determine your destiny in a lot of ways. But then there's also learning how to like run your business, because as an artist, you are an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You have to learn how to navigate the business world as an entrepreneur, and you learn the way you like to do business and like what these contracts say and how much you're worth, you know. And like I said, you're not going to be worth what you're really worth out the gate. You have to train people on how much you're worth, and then you can control it from there. I've always made a good amount of money for the work that I've done. That's before I started being an artist. That's because I know how much I was worth. You know, I went and looked things up. I looked at how long I had been doing things, and you know, like the type of professional work that I did compared to this person. So if this person gets paid this much, and I've worked for the same type of companies, then I am worth this much, and that's what you're gonna pay me, or you ain't gonna get nothing.
There you go. Plus, you came from advertising, so you knew a little bit about.
Oh yeah, I sneaked in. I sneaked in. You know, those few times I sneaked and looked at the payroll. You know, you're not supposed to do that, but
right.
I needed to know because I wanted to know like what this guy is making compared to me. And you know, of course, there's racism in everything because this is America. So you definitely need to know as a person of color what the going rate is for your white counterparts, so you can know what to hit them with when it's time. And especially like me being like one of the only black people working in advertising, I had to be 3 times as good as my white counterpart. So I charged for
My
that.
mom used to tell me the same thing growing up.
Yeah, we all went through that, you know.
Absolutely.
Like I could run circles around my coworkers,
Right.
but I wasn't necessarily. I would get the money that I asked for, but I wouldn't necessarily get the job title. That's important too.
And so we appreciate those words of advice. I appreciate those. Often people underestimate the amount of time it requires to become good at your art. And the older you get, the less time you have, the more responsibility, non-art responsibilities you have. And so definitely taking advantage of being young, under the age of, 21, 22, that's your golden, those are your golden years to, as an artist, to develop. I mean, it's never too late.
But the upside of being older and being creative in your craft is that because you spent the time when you were younger doing things, it takes you way less time to do things than it would when you were younger. Like I am way faster than I used to be, super fast. But I don't charge for how fast I am. I charge for how long it took me to get this good.
Right. That's right. That's right. It's not about what you do. Right. It's all the years of training.
There you go.
It's like symphony orchestra players are always in collective bargaining agreement, negotiations with the orchestra administrations. And people often look at the salaries that an orchestra musician will make, and they'll say it's way too high. You're only playing 2-3 concerts a week. Yeah, but you've been doing music since you were 3 and nothing else.
Right. You got paid for these 10,000 hours, man.
Exactly, 10,000 hours. All right, we got 2 students here. We're going to start with Landon. Landon, can you say something? Can you hear us? Can we hear you?
Yes, I can hear you all perfectly fine.
Excellent. And Alivia, can you say something so we can make sure that you're on?
Hey.
Okay, excellent.
How y'all doing?
Tell us about yourselves. We'll start with. Go ahead, Alivia. Tell Fabian, who you are, what you play, and what you plan to do in the future.
I'm Alivia. I play double bass, and I'm an inspiring photographer. I like doing video talk, however you say it.
Photography, editing, videography.
Editing films, and I like playing music, so that's what I'm gonna do in the future. Hopefully.
Hopefully. That's what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
There you go.
Alivia, you have a YouTube channel with your sisters, don't you?
Yes.
Go ahead and tell us about your YouTube channel.
we do vlogs, we do challenges, pranks, and stuff like that. I was talking to them about starting maybe doing some music or something on there.
And what's the name of the channel?
3L Nation. Three
Three
spell out three.
3L Nation. All right. You have a question for Fabian?
Yes, my question is, while you doing your murals and stuff on the walls and things, have you ever had like a situation where it was like you felt like racially judged? And if you did, how did you handle it? And if you haven't, how would you handle it?
I've actually never had anybody come at me about the content of my murals. Honestly, I've been surprised at how most people that I thought would be offended by it have reacted. It's been relatively mostly positive. I've had the cops call on me before because I was painting on a wall illegally, but even the cops was like to the owners, like, you don't like this mural? So I've been very fortunate. I believe that whatever your craft is, if you speak through your craft, it just hits people different. You know, it's hard to be mad at something that is considered, a form of beauty. So I don't know if it's like, how our brains process it, but I can tell you one time I did a piece called Cop Vision, where it showed this police officer looking at this black guy, and the guy had his arms up in reality, but in his eyeball, the guy was coming at him with a knife and a gun. So it was during the Creative Loafing Best of party, and two white highway patrolmen came in and were standing at the painting and were just staring at it. So I walked over to him. I was like, well, what you think? And, I was expecting them to be like, this is not how things are. But they was like, yeah, this is how it's not necessarily how we feel, but it's sort of like what the culture of our police department are sort of like, it's what we're taught to feel. And I was like, that's really interesting. It's like, yeah, it's like we don't necessarily want to like follow through with a lot of these rests, but it's expected of us.
It's how
like,
how they train. They train to.
They're how they train to do. Yeah. So it's like
protect themselves at all costs. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I'm having this conversation with these two white police officers that are like, yeah, this is a problem, and we don't know what to do.
Wow.
So I feel like there was no way I could have done that with words, because I'm not, I'm not a writer.
Yeah.
I'm an artist. So I using that medium to speak is the best for me. It may be, like something you do with a bass line that speaks to that. I don't know how you would interpret it, but like definitely using your craft, that's like the highest form of your own personal expression.
Any advice for Alivia on pursuing photography? She's been talking about this for years. I know she's taken it very seriously. She runs around with a DSLR around her neck, and so.
Okay, so, yeah, you have to figure out a way to show your work to people. I mean, one way to start out, like a lot of artists and photographers start out at coffee shops and public places. But if you want something a little bit more refined, then find a place that's willing to let you put up at least 7 pieces, and those 7 pieces should be able to relate to each other in terms of like tone and subject matter. And you'll have to learn how to communicate your ideas and your feelings through the lens. And that's the hard part. The hard part is learning how to like craft your own style. But once you figure that out, people will be able to look at your work and be like, oh, that's Alivia, you'll be surprised. Like your way of seeing things is you, and you have to fine tune who you are. And it's not going to be easy. You may already have it. I don't know. I haven't seen your work, but you definitely have to look around and look at other artists, look at other photographers that you admire, and what is it about their work that resonates with you.
Okay, thank you.
Landon, go ahead and tell him about yourself and then ask your question. Sorry about that.
Yes, sir, most definitely. My name is Landon Wilkins, and I'm a violinist and a violist. I actually picked up the viola over the pandemic, and I auditioned at Kennesaw State University with both violin and viola, and I obtained a scholarship, and now I'll be double majoring in the fall of 2020.
Wait a minute. You said you picked up the viola over the quarantine?
Yes, sir.
And now you have a scholarship?
Yes, sir. For both.
What were you playing before that?
I was a full-time violinist, but I always think about maybe I should pick up the viola to broaden my research upon the music field.
The viola is like a little bigger than the violin, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit bigger, and it has a different note range.
Okay. Wow, man, that's crazy impressive, man. I used to play the cello back in the day.
Interested in,
I'm gonna tell Alivia that, but double bass is like a lot heavier. So,
yeah.
Respect. Respect to you, bro. Like that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. So,
go ahead, Landon, with your question.
So my question is actually about the arts community in a whole. And my question is, during the pandemic, we're left with more free time than usual. During this open period of time, what are some of your future projects and artistic goals that you are currently working towards?
Well, right now I'm working on the biggest mural that I've ever painted. The biggest, most detailed mural that I've ever painted is at Morehouse, and it's called Black to the Future. So once I'm finished with that, I've been working on sketches in my sketchbook. This is one of them. See if you can see that.
That looks really nice.
So that's Reverend William Barber. And to me, he's like the closest thing to Martin Luther King Jr. living right now. And he's the co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign. And I'm going to do a mural of him in the Westview. This is part of my activism, if you will. I'm not getting paid for it. I just believe that his philosophy is what something we should be holding on to. He's basically like he's advocating for a living wage. Like the way we're getting like stimulus checks to get us through this period. He wants that to be like a regular thing. And actually, Martin Luther King Jr. tried to get that passed in 1960. In the 1968 was when he was advocating for it, right before he was killed. So
universal basic income.
Universal basic income, yes. So what Andrew Yang ran on was actually Martin Luther King Jr.'s platform. So there's nothing new under the sun. So I want to put him up as, and people like him up around around the city and then around the country, because I feel like this country, with as much money as it generates, should be taking care of its like most vulnerable.
Yes, sir.
So that's one of them. And I have some other concepts that I've been drilling on. And I've also been doing, work about how it feels. Like, I feel like this quarantine is kind of like.
Is that D-Nice?
Yes. Yeah. What I don't want people to do is lose track of what's happening while we've been in our houses. If you notice, the weather is really nice. Mm-hmm. Weather is nice because humans aren't involved. We're not dumping trash. We're not driving our cars. And that has allowed the spring to be spring. That's why we have such fair weather over the last 2 months. The last 5 springs has been increasingly more and more hot. I work outside. I can tell you that May used to be steady 90 degrees, and it has been anything but that, and it's been amazing. So, like, maybe coming out of this, we need to change the way we live, because we are completely destroying the planet we live on. if you notice when you wake up in the morning, you hear more birds chirping, more birds singing. The weather's fair. So like without us involved in the world as we usually do, look at how nature is. It's healing.
Yeah, those skylines are looking real nice around the world. Like
Exactly.
crystal
Yeah.
clear.
Like you can see
Yeah.
the Himalayas now.
Himalayas,
And-
you can see Stone Mountain. Doesn't matter, what time of the day it is now.
right. So it's like, do we want to go back to doing things the way we have been doing them? I feel like we're squandering an opportunity because we're not even talking about that really. I think there was one piece I saw on Earth Day from ABC about how the weather has changed. Outside of that, I haven't seen much coverage
Right.
of it, and I don't know about any other planets that we can live on. So we got to get it together. Like I feel bad for my kids' generations coming up because we're leaving a calamity of like just unimaginable proportions by carrying on doing things the way we've been doing. But there's a bright spot. Like I was saying, art controls culture, culture controls people. So creative people, if y'all don't like what you're seeing, you can create a vibration that would make people change the way they're doing. It's like, ironically, it's really that simple.
I'm just wondering, you said that you've said that doing murals is the closest thing to construction work.
Yes.
Like it's
Physical.
hard.
Very
What's hard? What's hard about
climbing ladders?
What's like the most annoying thing that we would know about doing murals, large murals?
The sun. The sun. Like it being hot as hell is not fun. Like I've had a lot of weird skin conditions over the last few years because I'm just out in the sun. I try to remember to wear sunblock, but I don't all the time, and I pay the price. The sun is not like the sun I grew up with. I'm not super dark. I'm caramel. So I'm like I can take a couple of shades of sun, but when it's 90 degrees and the UV it stings in a way that I can't really explain. It's just different, and this weather is really fair right now, so I'm taking advantage.
Helping.
Yeah, so being up on a ladder, holding an aerosol can for like over 2 hours and getting the sun straight baking you is something I just...
When you drew the mural of Stacey Abrams at the corner of Boulevard and Edgewood, you had to stop traffic, right? Like because
it was dangerous.
The wall is so close to the street that you had to have someone direct traffic for you. Was that
I had to have hire 2 police officers.
Did you have pressure to like finish more quickly, or I was like,
yes, because I was like, I don't want to do this another day, so I had to paint that face in a day. And matter of fact, I got to go touch that up tomorrow. So I have like an extra tall ladder that I use, and I don't have it actually. The people working on the building are letting me use it, and it's dangerous. Like when I painted that mural, I was on a lift. And in between my legs was a power line, and I could hear it buzzing. I could hear, millions of current, like electrical current, like breezing through my legs, yo.
I hope you paid yourself some hazard pay for that.
Man, we're not even getting to that. Like, like the money isn't consistent like that, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So that's something politically I want to work on, is getting like health insurance for everybody. Most creative people don't make enough regular money to be able to afford health insurance. I'm one of those people. You know what I mean? So like, I have to pay the cost to make sure my kids are taken care of, but I'm the one that gambles with my life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And my insurance policy is don't get hurt.
Yeah.
So,
if it's not bleeding, stay home.
Yeah, man. Like I got Band-Aids and packages. Like, but I've been blessed, man. Like I've never broken a bone or, had a serious injury. I've never had surgery, never stayed in the hospital overnight, And
knock on wood that continues.
I just did it again. Yeah. But I believe as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, that I'm gonna be all right. I got angels, guys looking over me. I'm not doing this by myself. I don't think.
Hmm.
I'm definitely like I'm getting cues. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely. Landon, another question for Fabian.
Yes, sir. So, in a conversation with my violin teacher, she was explaining the importance of teaching the arts to the younger generation. During this pandemic, what are some ways that you believe that you can further push arts education?
And if I might just follow up, that's a great question, Landon, because actually, um, the arts aren't available to kids everywhere. I mean, the high quality instruction and, the opportunity to put your art to the world by concerts and shows. How do
especially now.
we, yeah, how do we as a society, after, the pandemic kind of settles, how do we nurture and develop the next Fabian Williams, the next Landon Wilkins, the next Olivia Carter?
Well, I know with my own children, I take them to galleries and museums. I mean, that's what I did um, from the time they were children, for babies. I've always taken my kids to museums and galleries. I take them to my shows. I take them to my friends' shows. Um, we go and we look at just murals and artwork, and we listen to music, live music, concerts, anything and everything art. I always put my kids in front of it because it teaches. Like there are things that kids pick up on that we're not necessarily cognitive of, but like they are recording everything. So the more they're presented in front of good artwork, good music, good dance, good sculpture, uh, the more they soak up. And so I do my best with like I encourage like just people in general like to like take children around art, introduce them to like as many creative experiences as they can possibly uh, get in front of, not through phone device because it's not the same. They need to be in front of it physically. They need to be able to feel a double bass or a viola experience. Like you need to feel the waves of that instrument falling over you. It transforms you. Um, yeah, like just really making it a constant thing to visit museums and galleries and to soak up, to be in front of a 500, 600 year old painting is a thing. Like I can't explain to you how something feels when you're in front of it as opposed to looking at it through on a book. Someone touching something, like you leave your essence on it. When you're at a live show, as opposed to a good live show, mind you, because not everybody's good at performing live. A good live show, like it feels different. It just hits you different, and you know, there's something magical about like a human touch, and we can't lose that. We shouldn't lose it.
Well, there you guys have it. Landon, I look forward to seeing your first live show, your first live recital at Kennesaw State in the coming years. And Alivia, I look forward to seeing your continued photography everywhere on social media and in person. And hopefully we're going to see you performing on bass in the future. Thank you, Olivia and Landon, for joining us. Congratulations once again on graduating high school. We wish you all the best, and thanks, Fabian, for taking the time to answer their questions. I'm gonna continue along with Fabian here. We just have two more questions for you, Fabian, and
Okay.
then we're gonna all go back to our uh, old pandemic ways.
Hmm.
All right, so two questions for you. What empowered you? The mission of the Atlanta Music Project is to empower underserved youth to realize their possibility through music. Uh, as an artist, what empowers you?
Uh, Atlanta provides a unique opportunity for me to like try out my ideas and concepts. I don't know too many other places that will allow a stranger like myself to come up and produce an event, and people look at it and be like, I'll try it. That, and I have a very good network of friends, super friends, I like to call them.
Super friends. I like that.
Yeah, some of the guys I actually grew up looking at are some of the people that that are actually in my phone. Kevin Williams, Maurice Evans, Gilbert Young, Carl Owens, who passed on a while ago. These were guys I grew up looking at when I was in Fayetteville, North Carolina, as a teenager, and I was like, these guys are like the best artists, that I have seen. And I come down to Atlanta, and I ended up in a figure drawing class with these guys. Like, where they do that at? It's Atlanta has been like just like a really magical place for me as a creative. And even when I was doing advertising work, I was always painting, and they were always there to encourage and push me along. I mean, Fahamu called me in his office when I was working in advertising and was like, I think you could be an artist. He didn't tell me how. Like, he was like, but like, you can do this, man. Do it. I was like, all right, what do I do? He's like, I don't know. Just do it though. So, like the city provides you the space, especially as a Black creative, to do what you want to do. Like, you can do it.
I'm absolutely a witness to that as well. The Atlanta Music Project started from nothing, from scraps, 10 years ago. And now we have this Center for Performance and Education in the neighborhood where we started. And I think it's improbable that we would have been able to do this anywhere but Atlanta. So when you say Atlanta and Atlanta artists empower you, I understand, I feel what you're saying. I believe it too.
Yeah, it's special.
Last question for you. This podcast is called The Next Movement. When we launched the Capital campaign to raise the funds for this building, we called the Capital campaign The Next Movement. What's the next movement for Fabian Williams?
It's a great question. I'm going to continue doing murals, but probably not at the rate that I have been in the past. I am looking to do more things in video, and I'm trying to approach podcasts, the podcast experience, in a way that fits my work. So there's a couple of different series that I'm gonna be producing. One of them is called Science and Shit, which is about us exploring different topics and conspiracies, and how to, like, really, I don't know, just look at them in a way that where we think a little more than we do, just more than we fear. I feel like most of these conspiracies are driven by fear.
Right.
And some of it, is interesting, but a lot of it is just nonsense. And then I'm also going to be doing one called The Drawing Room, where it's sort of like a figure drawing session with the Actor Studio. So I want to have some of my artist friends come and do figure drawing sessions or like sketchbook sessions, and we talk about current events and how the creative mind is processing a lot of those. Because we need to be talking about things like Lil Bootsy paying a woman to have sex with his 12-year-old, and how the Trump administration is undoing the justice system, letting his crony friends off with without using his pardon.
Yep.
Like, the creative community needs to talk about that, because most of us are not wealthy, and a lot of things that happen politically and socially will hit us first. And if we're the ones controlling the culture, then it's like, what do we want to see? What do we want to, what do we want our society to be like? And that's a question I've been posing to a lot of younger people. It's like, what world do you want to live in? I ask my kids that, like, what type of world? Like, we know what's messed up. Mm-hmm. We know that, but what do you want to see? And I feel like a lot of the purpose of the confusion right now is so we're not thinking about that. That's why we have murder hornets. Murder hornets, man.
Yeah, they just came about like 2 weeks ago. The big
murder hornets, bro. Like, as a journalist, it's a giant Asian hornet. It's bad enough that it's called the giant Asian hornet. Like, you know, shout out to my Asians. But murder hornets, murder hornets. Like to me, that was like, you're trying to make us scared.
Right.
So why? And it's because if things are going to change, then why don't we talk about that? We're not talking about that. We're talking about everything except we're talking about murders, unarmed Black people getting murdered again. It's like the trace with Ahmaud Arbery is Trayvon Martin all over again.
Yep.
So I'm like, not only do I want these guys to go to jail, but, whole police departments that support this type of behavior and the DA that allows it to happen, they need to go. And they need to go to jail.
It sounds like your activism and your activism is who you are, and the way that you put your activism out into the world is through art. You're an activist at heart. This is the things that you care about. You don't separate them from your art.
It's an extension of me, and like the reason why I am like this now is because I used to waste a lot of time, like I said, on social media. Social media doesn't change people; it makes them aware.
Right.
But it doesn't change anything. Like, likes without works is dead.
It's dead. Likes without words is dead. Without works.
Without works is dead.
Without works is dead.
Yeah. So it's like you can change the color of your avatar to like be flags, and you can like this and forth that, but it don't mean nothing until you get out into the street and make it happen. Nothing. And I don't necessarily mean marching, because I don't think that's bringing out about a lot of change. I think it's like old school change in laws. Laws.
That's a good way to end it thoughtful. Fabian Williams.
Great interview, man. Good
Thank
questions.
you. Fabian Williams, Atlanta artist. We're happy to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to join us on the Next Movement podcast.
Thank you, Dante. It was an honor being here.
All right.